All right, folks, we are going to get started. The count is still going up, but we'll get started as people roll in. Welcome to another edition of Webinar Wednesdays. Today's topic is a fun one. We're going to be talking about Citrix Managed Desktops alongside of Microsoft WVD. And the topic is unique, and it's a special edition Webinar Wednesday because today I don't have any speakers. So this is a true Pete editorial. I am Pete Downing. I'm your host, and I'm also the Chief Marketing and Technology Officer for XenTegra. So for those who don't know me, welcome. For those who are returning, and I recognize a lot of names, welcome back. So thanks for coming. And we're going to make this fun and have a little fun with talking about how Citrix and WVD can play together nicely. Just a quick FYI, we are on what's called GoToWebinar. A lot of us know that already. And if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A dialog box. I do pay attention to those. I, fortunately have 3 monitors going, so I can see the Q&A as I am doing demos and running through some of the content today. So definitely questions are welcome, comments, etc. The cool thing about the questions is they are recorded, so that way if we have a follow-up or we couldn't get to your question, we could at least try to answer them after the fact. So that's a little bit about GoToWebinar. Finally, here's our quick agenda. Today, we are going to be running through an overview of Citrix Managed Desktop. CMD is the acronym you might hear out on the interwebs or when you're talking to Citrix folks. I'm going to go through a quick overview and really provide some architectural overview, but also some cool updates that are coming out, not only around CMD, but Citrix Cloud in general. And I may do a session in the next coming weeks on updates around Workspace and Citrix Cloud, because there's a lot of cool stuff going on that front. But today, we're going to focus on CMD, and then we're going to dive into a nice little demo, and I'll show you how it ties into Azure. If you haven't already bookmarked this page, I'm actually almost done with the summer schedule. It's kind of hard to get vendors to commit. So I've been kind of, being a quarterback and calling audibles as needed. And, so I said, hey, I need a topic for this week. So why not talk about CMD? We got Cisco coming up. We're going to be talking about Cisco Meraki. We're going to do a webinar on lessons learned around our WVD pilots. So XenTegra, just to give you an idea, we did 20 WVD pilot implementations in the last 2 months. So I'm going to invite some folks in a panel to talk about some of the lessons learned around WVD. And then we're going to have a couple other cool vendors coming on that I'm getting tied up, and we'll be announcing those in the next few days. So keep an eye out for those. As far as events, we got a lot of great events coming up. Just a couple highlights. We have our VMware workshop coming up at the end of the month. We relaunched our Nutanix workshop in July, so keep an eye out for that. And that's going to be an online focused one. And that's going to be the theme, I think, moving forward, is we're going to stick to online formats and, keep everybody safe. And finally, if you haven't noticed, Andy, our founder and CEO, loves to do podcasts. He does a great podcast. It's called The Citrix Session. I'm actually producing and about to launch his next one, so keep an eye out for that. But a lot of great content there. If you're on your iPhone or your Android device, you can go on Spotify, search for XenTegra. It's there. It's pretty much in all the formats or all the players that you can get. So it's out there. So definitely give that a listen. And then finally, tomorrow, I have an awesome session, what I'm calling Nuts, Bolts, and Beers. It's my second edition of it, and it's my second one. So two of two so far. And we're going to be highlighting Agile technology in their operating conversion tool, but it's going to be focused on the OS and zero-touch converting a Windows device. So they just made a new enhancement to their conversion process so that you can convert Windows devices without touching them. So pretty cool. So that's tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Bring a drink of your choice, and we can have fun demoing and highlighting cool technology. All right, so we're gonna, as many of you know, I like to do polls because I like to highlight and get the audience involved, make sure everybody's awake, and have a little fun getting some data so I can talk to the data as I go through the day today. So the first question is a fun one, just easy one. Hey, do you own Citrix Cloud or Workspace. So are you using Citrix Cloud and or Workspace? And answer the one that fits you the best. So if you're not a Citrix customer, then just say no. Why should I move? If you understand what the word hybrid rights means, then you should answer that one. If you don't know what that means, then I would say answer the middle one. Yes, we own the licensing, but not have migrated. All right. So we'll give this a couple seconds. This will give me an idea of who out there has Citrix Cloud and understands truly what it is. We'll let this go. And again, this is anonymous, so don't worry. Other folks can't see your response, and so when I share it, it's only data. Now, another thing too is if you're on the web client, unfortunately, I can't control it. You sometimes have to full screen it to get the poll to show up. I can't. Unfortunately, I don't own GoToWebinar, so even though they're a Boston-based company. All right, so we got a lot of great answers here. Pretty even spread across the board. Pretty cool. I like when I get a lot of folks on the webinars because it gives some good data snippets and makes the data pretty relevant. But pretty even spread. And we're going to talk through some alternatives to consider. That's why I really like CMD. I think CMD is a great alternative to core Citrix. All right, let's talk about Office 365, and this plays into authentication more than anything, but this is a more curiosity question. Are you using Office 365, and if so, how? So if you're using it hybrid / on-prem, pick that option. If you're 100% online, gung-ho, awesome, and all the other answers kind of make sense. But the other thing to keep an eye out for, we are going to be doing a session on O365 and some of the hurdles that you're seeing as far as migrating to Office 365. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be with our friends in XenTegra. I think it's going to be late July is what we're trying to target. And someone said they can't click the poll. Unfortunately, if you're in the web client, try doing a full screen mode. Again, I can't control that. I've submitted the bug, by the way. I have friends in high places in GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, or log me in, I should say. All right, last call. All right, so we got a lot of folks on the what I like to call the on-prem / hybrid. We got a chunk of folks on online, and I tend to see this, right? And typically the hurdle is twofold. It's mailbox migration strategy. So if you have any questions on that, definitely reach out. There's a lot of options out there. If it's PST conversion issues, let me know. I found there's a great tool, a guy out of Denver, Colorado, awesome tool that can help with that. If you're currently deploying. Now, funny thing is we got almost 100 people today, and no one answered Google Chrome Enterprise. I usually get one, but hey, we'll call that a draw, right? All right, let's talk about Azure. So Azure Infrastructure as a Service. Are you currently evaluating it? Are you using it in tests? Are you just using it kind of in your own, test labs? Are you using it in production? Are you considering it, or is it not on the radar? And answer as honestly as you can or to your knowledge, right? Again, you're the eye of the beholder when you answer this, but try to answer for your enterprise. I asked about this because this plays into when you're looking at Citrix Managed Desktops. There's a new functionality they launched, I'll say mid last year, that allowed a little more flexibility. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. So we'll give this a couple more seconds. We're only getting about 50% participation. So if we can step it up, that'd be awesome because it makes my data nice and clean. I'm a stats guy, so All right, going once, going twice, and last call. So we got another even spread. Wow. So this is pretty cool. So we got a lot of kind of an even spread across the top three. And then if we bundle the last two, I would say that still takes the lion's share right there. So interesting spread there. We'll talk a little bit why this matters. All right, final question. I am currently, my enterprise is considering Windows Virtual Desktop. So, hey, are you already piloting it? Do you want to pilot it? What is WVD? So if you really don't know what it is, answer it. I'm not going to judge. Don't worry. Again, I can't tell who's answering. So, or hey, it's not on the radar, or it doesn't meet your needs. And that's kind of the topic of today. That's why CMD is where it's going to fit in. So we'll talk about WVD in a little bit, but if you're in the, hey, I want to pilot it, all right, your ears should perk up right now. You know, wait till about July, end of June, early July. Microsoft will release their funding programs, and then you can work with a partner like me to do it for free. So again, if you're looking at piloting WVD, don't go and try to do it on your own, because again, you got to pay for that compute. That's money out of your enterprise's pocket. Why not do it for free? So if you're curious of how that works, reach out, we can take you through it. All right, last call for final clicks. And again, another even spread, tie between the top two, pretty interesting. And again, if you don't know what WVD is, hey, I do a monthly workshop where I highlight how to get WVD up and running, nuts to bolts, and then take you through all the pros and cons of it. And if it's not on your radar, I'm guessing you have another solution, or hey, you're happy with your on-premise setup. All right, so that's our polls for today. So thanks for playing. I really appreciate the audience getting involved. And now we're going to jump in and talk about the topic. But before we do, definitely give Citrix and XenTegra a follow on any of the social platforms. Follow me. Follow us on our YouTube channel. Again, we try to post relevant content, so I don't have to spam you all the time with email. So again, give us a follow. And now let's dive into the topic of the day today. And yours truly will be the guy talking about it and demoing it. So a little more raw than usual, because I can tell you like it is and give you the real deal, and give you what I like and I don't like. All right, so let's talk about WVD and how Citrix can be a control plane for WVD. So if we look at Windows Virtual Desktop, this has been generally available since November of last year. Now, the funny story about WVD is it was in pilot last year, and a lot of folks thought it was available and treated it as if it was GA. And what was interesting about it was you would get on calls and they'd be like, oh, it's GA. And you're like, no, it's not. And they'd be like, yeah, no. And then when it came out in November, everybody's like, oh, I thought it was already out. It was like, no, it was still in preview mode. So officially WVD came out in November, and I gotta say I'm impressed at how fast WVD has moved. But that said, there's still a lot of, I'll say, limitations to WVD, and especially if you come from the Citrix realm of being familiar with ICA, the old school days of presentation server, etc. You become ingrained into that, the performance of the ICA protocol, HDX, but also the user experience. So if you come from Citrix, it's a hard shift. And luckily, Citrix and their friends on the other side are what's called WVD approved providers. So what does that mean? That means that Citrix and their friend are providers, and they can actually lay on top of WVD, and you still get WVD pricing. So for example, your core Citrix virtual apps and desktop service can actually run and spin up Win10 multi-session, and as long as you're using Citrix Cloud, you still get the Linux-based pricing. Same goes for CMD, which is what we're going to focus on today. So again, Microsoft has built a great ecosystem around this whole notion of Windows Virtual Desktops, desktop as a service, whatever you want to call it, and Citrix was one of the first vendors to really chomp down and embrace WVD. So here's, just a high-level architecture. Again, I won't get too deep into WVD today, but if you're interested, I do a one-day workshop just on WVD and then how Citrix kind of ties into it at the end. But you can see it's essentially taking your RDS on-premise setup and allowing Microsoft to take over the management of it. So you can see the top box there is all the infrastructure you might have on-premise today if you were going to run an RDS environment, right? And so Microsoft takes that, they manage it, they become your entry point, and then behind the scenes you're running all the compute on Azure, all right? And so really where your day-to-day is focused is what image types are you going to run, how are you going to manage those image types, etc. Now, without getting too deep into the complexities of WVD, there are two issues I always see: domain and networking. All right, and someone made a comment about domains, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But one of the value props of Citrix in general and CMD is you don't have to join a domain. You can actually do a non-domain join virtual machine and spin it up within hours, we'll say, if you're going to be doing a lot of them, and have Azure AD be your authenticator. All right, so pretty cool. Networking is another big piece. Now, if you're going to bring your own Azure to the CMD table, then yeah, you still have to have your networking in check, but it's not as complex as if you want to do pure WVD. All right, so those are the two issues I typically see, and we'll talk about some of those value props that Citrix Managed Desktops brings to the table. So this slide here was actually developed by Microsoft, and I like to show it because it really shows the value of Citrix and Microsoft working together. And I won't spend a lot of time on the architecture here, but at the end of the day, there's two things that stick out to me. The first one is the notion of hybrid cloud management, right? And so if you're truly looking at a way to be hybrid, right? So if you want to run Citrix in workloads in one data center and maybe Azure and maybe another data center, Citrix is going to enable that with the Citrix Cloud Control Plane, right? Now, if you want to not be locked in, that's another reason why you would consider using Citrix as a control plane for Azure, because then you can plug and play other clouds if you need to. And the cool thing is you can even plug and play server-based OSs in another cloud and still run Win 10 multi-session in Azure, because right now that's all where you can only run it. So that's one that sticks out to me. The other one that sticks out is autoscale. So autoscale is a great functionality that Citrix built in since day one with CVAD service, so Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service. Now, what's great about autoscale is it's not only deprovisioning the VM, it's also deprovisioning and removing the resources, so you're not spending money where you don't need to. So for example, if you need to have 1,000 virtual desktops up and running, and let's say at night you only want 100, Citrix will auto deprovision those and then reprovision them for the next day at, let's say, 8 o'clock, right? So the autoscale is really I would say the first of its kind on Azure. And yes, I know Azure has scale sets, but right now it's not technically supported with WVD. And for anybody that's gone down the path of trying to create a logic app or trying to create a script or a JSON script, it gets pretty hairy. And I've done 2 implementations where I've tried to help customers do this, and we ultimately end up looking at Citrix or another provider in the space. So again, I could talk all day about some of these other boxes. If you have any questions on any of them, feel free to shoot. But I think a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. We can have the HDX conversation all day long. I don't think we need to, because I feel like HDX is tried and true, and it's been around a long time. So, all right, here's our models. So I like to show this slide because a lot of us, if you're a Citrix shop, are probably far right, and I think the stats really show that. So you're in what we call the DIY model. You have a deployment on premise. You're contemplating, hey, what's my move, right? Everybody's moving to subscription. How and why do I want to move to Citrix Cloud, or how and why do I want to move to Citrix Managed Desktops? And so the middle option is, I would say the apples to apples, right? So if you're a Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop shop or a XenApp Zen Desktop shop, the middle bucket is what I like to call the apples to apples. Desktop as a service is interesting is because you have a lot of different options now, especially with the new bring your own Azure model. And I'll talk about that in a second. But let's say I'm a net new customer and I just want to get some virtual desktops up and running and be on my way. That's what Citrix Desktop as a Service is going to give you. Citrix Managed Desktops is you don't have to have anything in your running. You can just have Azure AD and that's it, and you're ready to go. Right? And so that's the great thing about Citrix Managed Desktop is it's a full end-to-end solution. And as a small business or even a medium business, you can say, hey, I need to get Desktop as a Service up and running and get it running quick. So I really feel that Citrix Managed Desktops are it's the better plugin to WVD. All right, and I'll show and explain why. Now that said, if you're a Citrix Cloud customer and you're running Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service, it's a great control plane as well in that model. And if you're interested in digging deeper in that, let me know, because I can show you some of the cool tips and tricks that I've learned throughout the years one of the ones that you should check out if you're an Azure shop is Azure Quick Deploy. So anything I show you today can actually be done in Azure Quick Deploy minus desktops. All right, and so again, for those who are CVAD shops, so Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service shops, definitely check out the Azure Quick Deploy tool. All right, so let's talk about some architectures, and then I'm going to show you all this. All right, so Citrix Managed Desktop, how does it work? Well, the great thing about Citrix Managed Desktop is you don't have to have anything. You can just literally walk up to the table, say, hey, I need 100 desktops, and within hours you can have them spun up. You have once you sign all the documentation and go through your procurement within hours, you can have it spun up, and you're paying Citrix for not only the licensing cost of the control plane, but the compute cost and the Microsoft licensing cost as well. So they become the one-stop shop for end-to-end anything related to the desktop as a service. And I'll talk about pricing later before we close out, but that's really the value prop. So if you're new to Citrix, then this is a great solution. Now, if you're a Citrix customer and you're currently a Citrix customer, this could be a great solution to plug into your on-prem scenario. So I had a customer say, hey, I need to get a bunch of desktops spun up, and I need to plug into my existing XenApp infrastructure, aka virtual apps, right? So that's another great use case where, hey, I just need to get desktop as a service running because I need to enable my at-home workers so they can work effectively and efficiently, all right? So really what the goal here is, hey, this offering is very turnkey. It's not your typical Citrix offering, right? So you can literally say, hey, Mr. Sales Guy or Pete, I need 1,000 desktops. Where do I sign? Get everything done, and then be ready to go and spin up 1,000 desktops, right? And there's a lot of cool functionality and a lot of changes that Citrix made in the last, I'll say since August of last year when they launched this, that include some of the stuff that you guys have shared. Hey, I want to be able to bring my own Azure. Hey, I need a better way to connect to my own edge, right? And so there's a lot of cool stuff that Citrix has done to enable Citrix Managed Desktops. So here's our high-level architecture, and you can see what's really cool about this is you essentially don't have to bring anything to the table other than, for lack of a better term, your wallet and some type of Citrix, some type of Azure AD if you want to have your own authentication. So it's a very simple architecture, and the control plane, as you're going to see in a minute, is very simple as well. So that's what makes this offering unique, is nuts to bolts. It's turnkey. It's very simple to get up and running, and you as a customer don't have to bring anything to the table if you don't want to. Now, here's a little deeper architecture. So what they call a concept architecture. All right, and you can see like Citrix, I love this. I love these diagrams because they bucket the things into what they are. So you got users, you got your access, you got your control, and you got your resource, and then you got all the backend stuff, right? And so anything that's in shaded is managed by Citrix. So pretty cool, right? So you as a customer, don't have to bring much to the table. I mean, if you're not doing profile management, then we should talk. But at bare minimum, you're going to bring, some type of profile management, whether it's OneDrive or ShareFile, and you're going to bring probably an Azure subscription because you're probably doing Azure AD. But other than that, you're not doing much, right? And so you can see this is a very end-to-end. It's a very clean, turnkey solution. So here's an example of a deployment model. So you can come as a customer and say, hey, Citrix, hey, XenTegra, we just want to run Citrix Managed Desktops. We don't have anything. We just want to get this up and running and go. So you can use Citrix's managed Azure subscription service. You pay, Citrix directly. It's kind of like, credits, right? You pay for an amount of credits up front per month, and if you go over them, no problem. They bill you next month. If you go under them, no problem. They roll over. So you pay for credits towards Citrix, so you don't have to worry about an Azure subscription. You can pay for the licensing costs. You don't have to worry about licensing costs. So you can go a la carte, end to end, pay for everything and not have to bring one thing to the table, which is pretty cool. Or this came out, I'll say early fall, you can bring what's called I like to call BYO Azure. So not BYO beer, BYO Azure. You can BYO your own beer tomorrow, but today we're going to talk about bringing your own Azure. And what's valuable about this is some of you might have better buying power, right? So it comes down to your EA agreements, your licensing costs, and you might have better buying power than Citrix, so you can bring your own Azure and leverage your own infrastructure. So you might have complex firewall scenarios. You might have hybrid rights enabled, so you're going to lower your licensing costs significantly. So then, therefore, you're only on the hook to pay for the license cost of the control plane. We'll talk about pricing a little bit later. So there's completely Citrix managed, or just the control plane plus your own Azure, which I like. So here's an example deployment, and I'm going to give a couple of examples here. So you got an example here in the education service world. Hey, I need to get a bunch of VDAs up and running, and I just need to get them up and running quick, and I need it to be as simple as possible, right? And typically in the education space, you're not really, you just need the logins to work and everything to log in. So that's where Azure AD comes into place. So this is a great example of the flexibility that CMD has. There's 6 different deployment models you can do with CMD, right? That are, domain joined, non-domain joined, Azure AD focused, etc. So this is one example, right? And, it just really simplifies the management. If you notice on premise, you don't really have much. In your Azure subscription, you just have your Azure AD. That's it. And most of us, if you're an Office 365 shop, have Azure AD. So here's another solution. This is healthcare. One of the great things about CMD is it is across most of the regions in the US, as well as some across the world. And you can see, you can expand and contract workloads based on need, right? And you look under the customer managed subscription, you can VNet pair between the Citrix managed subscription and the Azure managed subscription and be able to communicate and use resources within not only your Azure, but if you have the proper connectivity back to your on-prem data center as well. I'm going to talk about a new feature that just got launched. So again, this is a great example of the flexibility that CMD can give you because you're able to specify the region where you spin these VDAs up, all right? And then finally, one of my favorite, and Nick called this out, so nice call out, Nick. No domain is required. You can do non-domain joined VMs. Now, in production, are you going to do this? Probably not, but maybe in a DevOps scenario or seasonal workers where you don't want to burn, emails and things like that, you could do a non-domain joined VM. And this is one of the things that makes CMD very unique. All right, is the simplicity to be able to just do this, boom, right out of the gate. So you can literally log in and say, hey, I need 10 VMs that are non-domain joined. And I'll show you I won't actually deploy them, but I'll show you where you do that today. And you'll see the initial view that you get. So this is another great value add to the CMD platform. All right, so let's talk about just new features, and then we're going to jump in. I'm going to show you all this. All right, so new features, right? They had day one support for WVD. So this CMD is built on the WVD architecture. So guess what? You can take advantage of Win10 multi-session. So pretty cool. So Citrix not only has a Win10 multi-session VM, they also have a Win10 multi-session VM with Office, and they include the VDA. So they manage that VDA for you as well. So if you want to just do a pure vanilla image and that's it, you can do that. Now they also launched Bring Your Own Azure last year, and that was a huge step because what that does is if you already have Azure, then why not just bring your own? It's going to lower your costs significantly, and you probably have better buying power anyway when it comes to Azure, especially if you're a larger shop. Premium SSD, that's pretty self-explanatory, and then they added in 2012 R2 because a lot of customers were asking for it. And then finally, they launched the ability to do SD-WAN connectivity from their control plane to your edge. Now, yes, this requires SD-WAN on both sides. However, what makes this what makes this great is the fact that you can now not only streamline the traffic going from their edge to your edge, but you can also you also don't need what's not on the slide right there, an Azure subscription. So this truly negates the need for an Azure subscription. So if you are just looking to just go point to point, this is a great option, something to consider. And the cool thing about the SD-WAN is it can be a virtual appliance on your side. All right, so it doesn't have to be a physical appliance. Now, I know on the radar, they're talking about site-to-site tunneling as well, so we'll keep an eye on for that. And once they release that, it's going to be awesome. And then finally, they are adding in, now I got to check because I didn't see this in the control plane yet, and it might just be my control plane because I'm on a demo, but you're now able to do what's called the user personalization layer tech preview. So they're now layering in the ability to do user personalization, and they're going to probably integrate with storage, and if you need help doing SMB on Azure Files, let me know. I'm pretty good at it, and again, you can leverage either this or even FS Logics as well. So again, this is something that's new. It's in tech preview, and unfortunately, it's not in my UI yet because again, I'm on a demo, but I'm trying to get it turned on. And then they are going to allow you to do GPU instance VMs. So this is a big change. So last year they were very limited on what VMs you could pick. Now they allow you to pick N series VMs, so you're able to create GPU catalogs and service GPU instances. So Robert asked a great question, and I definitely pay attention to the Q&A, so definitely ask questions as I go through. With SD-WAN, does it have to be Citrix SD-WAN? Robert, the simple answer is yes right now. But like I said, I think Citrix is going to launch a feature that's going to allow you to do termination against like Cisco, for example, with their SD-WAN. So they'll have a site-to-site support at some point. I don't know when, but I know it is coming. All right, and then here's some of the new features either coming or already been released. So one of the things that's in tech preview, and you have to get it turned on, is desktop backups. So if you're doing persistent desktop, Citrix will give you the ability to back up now. So pretty cool. Vertical load balancing, so you'll be able to pack more sessions into a single multi-session VM, right? So scale up versus scale out, and they're going to allow you that functionality. So what's cool about that is you can start off with a cheaper virtual machine, and as the load warrants, you can scale it up vertical, right? Usage reports, this is already available today. Win10 multi-session with Office, available already today. And then the GPU instances are available today. And then finally, yes, Linux VMs. They're going to be supporting Linux VDAs as a tech preview with Red Hat and Ubuntu Linux in the BYO Azure model. So you have to be a BYO Azure customer in order to take advantage of that. All right, so instead of talking about it, let me show it to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the console first, and I'll show you guys what this looks like. Let me get it up and running here really quick. And again, if you have any questions at all, please put them in the Q&A dialogue. I do pay attention to it. So if you have any questions, please do ask. All right, so here we go. We got our Citrix Managed Dashboard. Now, I'll go into the main control plane in a second, but there's two benefits of using Citrix Managed Desktops. One, you have a very simplified UI that is on top of existing Azure or not just a Citrix Managed Azure. And two, you still get all the advantages of Citrix Workspace. And I'll show you that in a second. But so the value add here is you're getting a very simple control plane that you can lay on top of either the Citrix Managed Azure or bring your own Azure. Now, this is what you see out of the box. So if I didn't have any catalogs up and running, I would just get plopped here, and it gives you option A and option B. Now notice option B. Option B allows me to create non-domain joined VMs. So right out of the gate, I can spin up machines and have them spin up on Citrix Managed Azure and also leverage my Azure AD. All right. So this is option A. Now, are you going to do some production? Probably not. You probably have GPOs and you want to get policies applied, et cetera. But this is a great way to get started and just get a couple of virtual machines up and running. Or you might have some contractors or whatnot, and you just want to get them a machine so you can provide maybe an icon that they can connect to a secured entity, right? So if I click on Get Started, that's going to bring me deeper into the management plane. Now you can see very simple management plane here. And I already got a catalog created. I'm going to create one in a second. So I created my XT demo multi-user catalog, and I'm going to go in this in a minute. So and I'll show you what's in there and how this works. But let's create a catalog just to start. So that way, hopefully by the end of the demo, it's all set and ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Create Catalog here. All right. And in the Citrix world, catalog, it's very similar to what you call a machine catalog on-prem. Same concept here. okay? So you can see that, hey, I got the ability to do a custom creation and the ability to do a quick create. Now, when you quick create, this is assuming you're using the Citrix Managed control plane. So you're not going to use your own Azure. So that's the caution I will give you when you do quick create. So custom create gives you a little more flexibility and allows you to pick the different things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick random pooled desktops because I already did a multi-user session. I'm going to pick my own subscription because I want to use my own Azure subscription. But you notice that, hey, I can use the Citrix Managed subscription. So again, I don't have to have anything brought to the table if I don't want to, okay? And so what I'm going to do is pick the Azure subscription here, and I'll put them in my resource group in my virtual network. So again, if you're going to go down this route, bare minimum, have your network in check, all right? And if you need help with that, let us know. And then this is important. Are you going to bring your own hybrid license? Yes or no? If you're an EA customer, you probably know what this is. If you're not, let's talk, because this is a way to save money on licensing costs in Azure. Okay. Now I can add in my my domain here. So I'm going to put in my domain name, zencloud.labs. I could put in an OU. I won't. I'm just going to do the default, and I have my service account name. I'll put so this will add it to the domain for you. So pretty cool. All right, now we're gonna get down here. So we are going to pick our disk type. So we got our domain information. If I want to, I can get a little more advanced as well. You notice here that I can do standard SSD, standard HDD, and premium. All right. I say use premium, only in events where you think you're going to need it. So for example, if you have high IOP workloads or high in, like, let's say you got, let's say a customer I've been working with, brokers, right? And you need to, broker, and they're doing a lot of Excel spreadsheets and things like that. Yeah, maybe that warrants premium disk. So again, this is the difference between these three is read, write, input, throughput, and IOPS. So I just for sake, I'm going to pick SSD standard, and then you can pick your performance. So you can see that these are legit performance machines that are in Azure. So understand each of these levels. And the only feedback I gave Citrix is, hey, put the description here, because some of us might not know what these are. Now this is defaulting to the D2 SV3, which is a tried and true machine. I'm just going to keep it for that for now. If you have any questions on machine performance, aka versions, let me know. I can send you some good sizing guidelines. And then because I picked pooled, it's only going to let me pick a Win 10 Pro plus the VDA. All right. Now Citrix says they are working with Microsoft to offer up an enterprise option and an option with Office 365 for single session virtual machines. Now, I know you're wondering, hey, can I bring my own image? The answer is yes. I'll show you how to do that in a second. All right, so let's give this a name. We'll call this XTDemo-SU, so single user. And I needed to do this anyway, so it's a good demo. And we're gonna create this catalog. So what this is gonna do is this is actually gonna connect to my Azure tenant, and it's gonna say, hey, are there cloud connectors already created? So really quickly, let's go take a look at my Azure tenant so you guys can understand kind of the architecture here. And I'm logging in really quickly. And you'll see that this will go and provision everything automatically. So very simple control plane here. And you can see, all right, here's my Azure. So in Azure, Citrix Managed Desktops already created two what's called cloud connectors. So you need these cloud connectors to be able to communicate with your domain, Azure AD, things like that. Now, and so these become your proxy into your premise, we'll call it. I'm doing air quotes. Now you'll also notice here's my VM, my multi-user VM that I already pre-created, right? So you can see that. And then finally, you can see my domain controller, and I got a bunch of other demo machines here because I do various demos for other products, but you can see very simple. So Citrix auto creates these cloud connectors for you. So you don't have to do much to get this up and running. That's kind of the theme that I'm trying to show here. All right, so let's take a look. This is going to go on provision. Like I said, it takes about, it takes a while depending on what time of day we do this, etc. But as that's provisioning, let's go take a look at Citrix Managed Desktops and other things you can do. So the next thing I want to show you is kind of the stub menus here on the side. So let's take a look at master images. So Citrix offers out of the box all these master images, right? And these are managed by Citrix behind the scenes. So you can choose to use these vanilla master images, and then behind the scenes, if they make an update, you can push an update as well. So you don't have to have any image if you don't want to. Now, obviously, in the real world, you're going to want to have an image be have X, Y, and Z on it. You're going to want to have an image have maybe your GPO. So yeah, you're probably going to bring your own image, maybe not, right? So yes, you can go in here and build a custom image, and you can base it off of their templates and give it the proper sizing, etc., and the login details for building the machine, things like that. So you can lock it down, or you can import an image. So you can go in here and import an image that you built, and you can import from the shared library. You can import from your Azure using a public URL. So you can import your own image. So if you're gonna build a custom image, you can do this, and you can actually go into Azure and search for Win10 multi-session, build your custom image, put it in the shared library, and then pull it into Citrix Managed Desktop. Now the little asterisk here is, guess what? Now you just got to manage that one entity. So if you don't mind doing that, it's a great option and probably the most secure, right? So again, you can import your own image. All right, now user access and authentication. We're going to talk about this in a second, but you can see I got my URL here. I got my Active Directory plugged in. So you can see that I have everything ready to go. I'll talk about IDPs in a second. I have my networking connections. So someone asked, hey, I got my CMD to Azure, right? So this is connecting my CMD to Azure via peer-to-peer network. Now, you don't technically have to do this if you don't want to. So if you're running, bring your own Azure, you got your cloud connector set up and everything's ready to go, you don't technically have to do this. Some shops are very, they don't like doing this, right? But I like doing it because then you can know if the communication between your cloud and Citrix is intact, right? Now you can add another connection here. I like showing this. Yes, we can plug in SD-WAN. So back to a question that was asked earlier. Do I need to use Citrix SD-WAN? For right now, yes. Is there other options coming? Yes, I think there are. Obviously, I don't work for Citrix, so I can't commit those. All right, and then the final thing I like to show is you can bring in your cloud subscription, and just because of the ID and all that, I can't really click on that, but you can pull in your cloud subscription. Now the cool thing is it does use service principals now. All right, so for those who are Azure and know Azure, you know that that's the most secured way to do it. So that's a big change that Citrix made, I'll say late last year. So now you use the service principal to add in your subscription. All right, so let's take a look at the virtual machine that I have deployed. And while I'm doing that, I'm just gonna make sure I didn't miss any questions. There's a great question around security. So the question is, hey, my client IT security team raised some concerns about allowing Citrix, the cloud VDI, to add VMs to their domain. Have you heard any concerns? So the easiest fix to this would be bring your own Azure. The other fix to this, and I'd say that's the easiest fix, because then you control the virtual machines, you control the control plane from a networking perspective, and then you can firewall them, et cetera. And I have customers that do this all the time. Yeah, if you're going to do it on the Citrix Managed Azure, yeah, you don't have much control. So I get that. I get where they're coming from, but I would venture to guess that their data center and their entity is probably more secure, if not equal to what your security is. So that's my argument. I'm sticking to it. But again, the most safe route is to bring your own Azure. All right, so you can see here, here's the multi-user virtual machine I have deployed. And I did this just to save time, because you can see it takes a while to provision a virtual machine. You can see I have a multi-user Win10 device virtual machine running with Pro Plus. Now, if I wanted to update the image, I just click here and do update image. And like I said, if let's say Citrix comes out with a 2003 image, you can just click on it and do update, right? So if you don't really care about having a base image that you can control, you can use the library to your advantage and get up and running relatively quick. Now you can go in here and edit the session count per machine. So maybe you start learning your what's called user per core density. So definitely keep an eye on that. So very simple UI. So let's pretend I had like 1,000 here or 100 and they're all registered. You want to make sure that all of them are registered, because guess what? If they're not registered, you're not getting to them. All right. Desktop and apps. All right. So right out of the gate, when you do a multi-session deployment, a multi-session VM, it's going to give you your traditional session-based compute access, right? And obviously I have to go and allow the access, so that's not done yet. But very simple here. I can go in here and add apps pretty quickly. And this is one leg up that I would say this has over WVD, is the ability to add apps is a lot cleaner, even with the new spring release. Now, the other thing you'll notice is Citrix conveniently adds Chrome in the image for us. And I think, let's test it if my memory serves me right. Not Notepad. I thought they added Notepad++, but I guess I was wrong. And then let's add one more, so PowerPoint for fun. So again, you can add in apps pretty quickly. Now, does this give access to your users? Not yet. All right. So we're going to hit close. So now we just added a bunch of published apps. So in the old school Citrix world, we call these published apps. So we just published a bunch of apps. All right. So Kevin asked a great question. So if I was provisioning, would it take the same amount of time or longer? Kevin, I think it depends on your subscription type behind the scenes. So, I get taxed because I'm a demo, I'm a lowly Azure subscription, even though I should be probably at the top, but whatever. And I know you're probably laughing, but no, I think it all depends on your subscription type. I've heard on average of provisioning, if you're doing if you're doing like 100, it could be a couple hours. It's all about the queue, the time of day you do it, et cetera, but also to your priority, what priority you have as far as a customer as well. All right, so then the final thing is, I just created all these apps and I got this desktop. How the heck do I assign users to it, right? So I go right here. It's very simple. Go and say, hey, I want to create subscribers. So they call them subscribers in the Citrix world. We're going to click on this. We're going to go here and you're going to notice something very cool. It pulls in your domain. So if you're in a merger scenario, it makes it very easy to manage multiple domains. So you just have cloud connectors up and running in all the various domains that you're managing, and you can manage apps and desktops across multiple companies. It's pretty cool. So really quick, I'll just add domain. I'll do a search for domain admins, and I forget what users I have in this domain. I'll just do domain users for fun. All right, so you can see very easy. You can add users in groups, individual users. So very similar to what you do in a delivery group, but a little more simplified. Right, so for those who are Citrix admins, if I say delivery group, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. All right, so now we just said, hey, these two groups have access to these apps and desktops. All right, so what we're going to do now is, how the heck do I get to these things? So I can take this little shortcut right here, click on my little URL, but before I do that, I just want to show some of the nuts and bolts of behind the scenes, some of the other value add that you need to consider of why Citrix with WVD. All right, so if we look at workspace configuration, so again, this is called the hamburger menu. So you click on the hamburger menu and you go to workspace configuration, and everybody keeps hearing about this thing called workspace. Well, there's a lot of value in the workspace, and if you want to hear my story, reach out. I love telling the workspace story. And you can see, here's my URL. I can see all the services I have plugged in here. All the different data centers, et cetera, right? Now, what's interesting here is the authentication. You get a lot more flexibility around authentication. And oh, by the way, this list is growing. So on the radar is Radius. I cannot wait for this to get released. I'm actually trying to get it turned on in my account so I can test it. But you can see Okta. You can use your own on-premise gateway. So if you're like, hey, I want to use my authentication flow that I have on-prem, you can proxy to your NetScaler on-prem, authenticate, and then proxy back. So there's a lot of flexibility in authentication here. And oh, by the way, this Active Directory Plus token is getting very robust. You can do fingerprint now with the app that Citrix offers. So Citrix has their own token-based application that's getting expanded by the quarter. It's pretty cool. Yes, you can customize to some degree. All right, so you can add your logo, you can make it look pretty, you can add your colors. So, very simple, but let's face it, simple is good, right? the more complex we get, the more lost our users get, right? So we want to make sure our users are successful. And we can turn on the various features of the workspace. So if you're not familiar with Workspace with Intelligence, let me know. Reach out, I can take you through that. And then finally, a lot of people don't realize that this exists and they forget about this. But yes, you can go in and turn on favorites. You can turn on auto launch the desktop, inactivity timer. You know, what do you want to do if they don't have the app installed, right? So there's a lot of cool functionality right here in the control plane. And then finally, my favorite feature of all is I can go right here and add a local site. So if you already have a Citrix deployment turned on, up and running, and you want to plug in, let's say, your XenApp deployment that's on premise, all you have to do is click add site, and this is going to take you through a wizard that has you plug in your site, and then you can display the apps and desktops in the workspace. So pretty cool. So again, if you want to dig deeper, I do a class every month just on this. All right, so now, how do I get it? What does it look like? So right click, I'll open up a new tab. We're gonna log in. And you can see, so Benjamin just asked, hey, what does the login look like? So here you go, Benjamin, right? So I'm gonna log into, just a quick test, I'm gonna log in as my domain admin just to make sure everything's working, and then I'll log in as a user. So you can see here, and you gotta love Chrome. Chrome caches everything. So let's do this and do a quick shift refresh and make sure we're clean. The cache is clean. So we'll log in one more time so you can see, boom, there's the apps I just published. There's my desktop. You know, so within, we'll say hours, let's pretend I just did this nuts to bolts. I can have a deployment up and running using a very simple control plane, and behind the scenes, guess what? It's using WVDs, and you're getting WVD pricing if you use Citrix with your own Azure. So let's, you know, just go in and look at all apps. So you can see here's all the apps. I can star the ones I like, you know, and add them to my favorites. Here, I'll click on one and launch it. And of course, it's gonna fail. And let's go and try our desktops really quick. And of course, it's gonna fail. You gotta love live demos. So let's see, we're gonna try another user. But let's go and check this. Let's troubleshoot this. So let's go take a look. So again, another value here is we're gonna go back to the Citrix Cloud. I love live demos. And Sean Donahue is probably laughing right now. Oh no, he already left, so. But anyway, let's go take a look. So one of the other value adds is the monitoring. So monitoring is built right in. So in Azure, you'll notice there's a lot of themes going around the interwebs. You'll notice that there are conversations around, you know, hey, use this tool for monitoring, use that tool for monitoring. Hey, use a logic monitor. Here, write this convoluted script, right? So Citrix just has it built in. So let's go take a look, and we can look at different filters. So let's take a look at our sessions and see what's going on. And let's go and do, you know, stuck on boot. We can do session-based machines, and it's showing there's no sessions. So like, all right, what's going on here? So let's go take a look at our control plane and see like, hey, is this thing really up and running? So it's saying, hey, it's registered. And, you know, we got our desktop and apps. If I go to my machine tab here, I can see it's powered on. It's registered. Hey, let's go check Azure just in case. Oh yeah, it is there. So, okay, maybe it's just something fluky with Chrome. That's what I'll cough it up to be. Yeah, I'm starting to not like Chrome lately. So let's do this. We'll do an incognito instance and make sure. And just for good measure, I'm gonna log in as a completely different user that I haven't logged into in a while. And if I can remember this password, we'll log in as user 2. I haven't tried this login. So now here we are. We got user 2. You can tell usually when you're good when this pops up. Hey, by the way, if you want to know how to get rid of the pop-up every time when it asks you to launch Citrix, let me know. I got a fix for that. And it was through trial and error, by the way, and looking on forums. All right, so here's a net new user. So Benjamin, back to your question. And we're going to apps. Here's my apps. Let's see, we'll take a look. And so we're gonna chalk it up to, oh, something's going on. We got an infrastructure issue on my side. So I gotta figure out why this is not launching. My guess is behind the scenes, there's an issue with the network. And we'll troubleshoot that later on. But So basically what I want to show here is the simplicity of getting everything up and running, the cleanness of the UI. So very simple UI, and I won't bring up Microsoft's UI because I don't like knocking my friendly, my friendly partners. But again, a lot cleaner UI, a lot easier experience. Now, Citrix keeps talking about this thing called Workspace with Intelligence. Again, this is by default what's out of the box. So you don't have to turn on the Workspace with Intelligence, but if you want to know more, let me know. All right, so really quickly, before we exit out for today, how do you get this? All right. And the great thing about this is the flexibility. So if you have your own Azure, you definitely want to bring your own Azure to the table. I would argue you probably have better buying power. So the way Citrix does it is they charge you units, units. So you pay for, a unit, and for every unit you buy, you get, obviously capacity on top of Azure. Now, what's cool about this is you're able to do monthly or do term. So if you want to go pay as you go, monthly is a good way to go, but obviously you're not going to get as much discounting. So just keep that in mind. All right. So here's just an example. This is MSRP, by the way. All right. So this is stock pricing, no discounting, out of the box. Now, if you're just going to go to Citrix, say I want everything. These are plus. So you're going to pay for the base cost of the licensing, plus your units for usage, and then your BYO. You can either bring your own license to lower the cost or buy it through Citrix. Okay, so again, a la carte, very simple. If you've never done Citrix before, great way to go and just get Citrix up and running quick, but have the power of Azure behind you. Now, I would argue you can save a lot of money by bringing your own Azure. So then you just have to pay that top pink bucket. That's it. So here's the per month cost, $16 per user per month. Not too bad, right? Now, again, this is before discounting, etc. But if you're going to bring your own Azure, it's not a bad cost on top of running compute on Azure, right? Now, again, you can bring your own license or not. So again, if you're a white space customer and you're just looking to get up and running quick, you just say, here's Citrix, here's my payment, there you go, done, right? So that's the value of the CMD offering. All right, so really quickly, who is XenTegra and how do you get this? So if you have any questions, someone say, hey, I'm interested in the pop-up fix, pop me an email, Jared. I can send you the how-to and how I did it. I'll send you the blog, the forum posts and all that good stuff that I got it off of, so I didn't just make it up. But yes, I can sell you Citrix Managed Desktops. I am a platinum Citrix seller. XenTegra was partner of the year 2 years in a row with Citrix. We can come in and also implement it. We have a bench of great consultants. I love my consultants, great guys to work with. I learn a lot from them, and hopefully they learn a lot from me, and I can be an advisor. But at the end of the day, you're coming to us because not only can we implement CMD and/or Citrix, we can help you with Azure, the whole stack. FS Logix, another favorite technology of mine, but it's all about the stack, right? It's about the solution, and that's why you work with a partner. So yes, we can come in and sell you Citrix, help you get it up and running, and be that trusted advisor. But parallel to that, we can also do what's called CSP. So we can sell you Citrix on a pay-as-you-go model, which is called CSP. Parallel to this, we can also do this with CMD. So Citrix Managed Desktops can be sold through us as a CSP now. So if you can't meet that minimum 25 user threshold, there are other options, okay? And on top of that, we're a Microsoft Gold and cloud solutions provider. Now, one of the things I'll recommend is we also do what's called free micro assessments. If you're not sure what you want to do and you're looking at like, hey, what the heck do I do with my Citrix environment? Reach out. We do a free assessment that is not just a, hey, here's what you need to do and you get a list. It's a, here's what you need to do. And Randy and Harvey who do them, they do this nice slick spreadsheet and they give you what's called a SWOT analysis, and it's very detailed. And we also do a networking one as well. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And if you're interested, reach out. And then parallel to that, hey, simple question, are you hiring? If you are, reach out. We have a staffing division. We can help find help. Parallel to that, if you're looking for a job, reach out. Our recruiters are awesome and fun to work with. And so as I'm looking at the final questions, if you want to dig deeper, let me know. We can plan a deeper demo. Obviously, there's only so much I can cover in an hour. If you need a quote on this, reach out. We can help you navigate the muddy waters that is Citrix licensing and get you through what's the best option for you. And if you want to dig deeper on anything, just reach out. And there was a great question around capacity. So Kevin asked a great question, and it's an issue. I would say, from my purview, Kevin, again, this is anecdotally, I'm seeing in the US, the capacity is actually pretty good. I think in Europe, it's finally evened out, just based on, my talking to folks over there and just getting feedback. But I'd say anecdotally, it's gotten better than it was when the whole COVID thing first started, because we all remember the nightmare of the first couple of weeks, capacity issues in Europe and things like that. But I would say the US is tried and true, and Europe's solid now, and anybody from Europe can attest to that. Awesome. And then Asia, I don't know, but I'm still hearing there's minor capacity issues over there. But all in all, I think Microsoft has done a great job at addressing the capacity issues, because let's face it, we didn't expect this. So kudos to them for getting it addressed. But I would say across the board, it's pretty solid now. So last call for question and answer. As we wrap up, yes, you will get a copy of this video automatically, but you also get it more direct as well. We send out a follow-up email. And if you're interested in digging deeper on any of the topics we talked about today, please let us know. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, we got Cisco, we got XenTegra, one of our great partners that we do a lot of Office 365 stuff with, and then lessons learned around WVD is on the horizon for our webinar Wednesdays coming up. So keep an eye out for those. And if you got time tomorrow, 4 o'clock, I'll be taking you through IGIL and the OS Creator for Windows tool, nuts to bolts, and we'll have a couple beers while we do it. So with that, I'm going to say thanks for joining me today on another edition of XenTegra's Webinar Wednesdays. Hope to see you guys in the future. And thanks for joining, and thanks for taking an hour out of your day.